skill 2. So for this this section, we're going to look at straddle handstand, and we'll look at pike entrance into handstand. With our straddle entrance into a handstand, straddle is our wide-legged variation. All the same rules apply, except the straddle has slightly different, sort of the hips are open in this position. You can actually, I find, compress a little bit more. So with the straddle position, what I'm talking about, I'll show you first. So just like what we were doing with the tuck position of starting with the body in a really rounded shape, keeping the compression, coming up into this position. In our straddle, as we come up, you're going to press your shin out. So try this a couple of times. Come into this tuck position, keeping the compression. You can even bring your feet a little bit wider. Keep the compression, so hugging the legs into the body. Shift and stabilize. Push one shin out. Come back. Shift, stabilize, push the other shin out. Come back, and you'll find out very, very soon that those are really awkward, intense muscles. So we're sort of pushing out those abductor, adductor muscles are sort of holding this shape together. So they're really at first challenging muscles to condition, but once you condition them, you'll feel very, very stable in the position. So one other thing to consider with this, what happens a lot is that the legs come up higher than the hips, which makes you come into a really a back bend like shape. So what you got to think about here is keeping your knees down below your hips, pressing your hips up, pushing your butt forward, back body's pushing back in this position. It's really, really hollow position. So an exercise to sort of work on this a little bit dynamically is what I would call a frog walk. It's basically a squat position. So squat position where the feet are wide, come to the back of the mat or whatever you're working with. And again, the legs are compressed really tight into the body. And I want to keep that compression. I'll lift the hips just a bit. Press the hands into the ground. Stabilize. Push the shins out. So come forward. Again, keeping the compression, legs squeezing into the body. Shift and stabilize. Push the shins out. So again, hands plant. Stabilize. Squeeze. Push the shins out. Okay. Try this one more time. Whew, it's really hard work. So again, squatting and compressing. So keeping the legs compressed into the body. Shift, resist, push out. Hands plant, squeeze, stabilize, push the shins out. One more time. Shift, resist, push the shins out. Release. Okay. So one other really brutal exercise for straddle. You sure you will actually want to do this? Sometimes I question my motives. So if your hamstrings are really intense, think about doing this in more of like a squat position, just like what I was doing before. So the hands are going to reach forward, shoulders reach forward, back pushes out. You can, you'll straighten your legs. Squeeze your legs into the body 10 times. Oh, this is great. Reach forward, squeeze. So it's a pancake, right? You're sort of pushing your body together. And so that tension is what keeps the body really compact, and that makes it a lot easier to balance. So if you're balancing, sort of like a Jell-O bowl or something, it's going to be really hard to balance that in one place because it's moving all over the place. But if you have something that's really solid and compact, then all you've got to do is get it in the center, and then balance happens, right? So with this position, what you want to think about, just like what we were doing with our tuck, of coming down, and then taking little tuck jumps up. With this, we're gonna come down, compact, and then kick out. If you can, feet together, back down. Okay? So down, tuck, up, kick out. Back down. Okay, so one of the things that's important about all of these movements, I think, is fluidity. Because anytime that you, say, tense something and hold it, if you tense your fist and hold it, almost instantly you start to weaken your body, right? Because holding a lot of tension for a long period of time is going to really weaken the body. So that's where I think I really appreciate the concept of yoga, about maintaining ease, about maintaining some softness as you move in and out of these poses is really incredibly important. So the body is firm and awake but not tense. And if you're doing these positions, you want to time it in such a way that facilitates that, so that the body isn't very tense. So I'm coming from this squat, and again, even if you don't jump, so watch, this isn't me jumping, but I'm going to do this in a really fluid way. Back and down. And then I'm going up. Back down. Okay? So work on this position. Work on all of these activations. Once you get them, try to make it fluid so it's cohesive. So you're not going up, down, up, ooh, up, down, ooh. So it's just one motion, right? Like your body, you're not fighting your body. You're using the direction that the body's going up into. So it's down, up. Oh, too much. There we go. Back down. But it's down and up. Light as can be, as fluid as can be. So that's straddle handstand and some exercises to start to work on your straddle handstand. Next one we're going to do is pike handstand. Pike handstand essentially is our tuck handstand, but with legs straight. Again, a way to work on this, just like we worked on the tuck, is to know directionally how your body is sort of keeping itself really in the hollow body position. So with the tuck, you may have your hamstrings could be too tense to keep your legs straight. And if that's the case, keep your legs bent. I'm a fan of, there's different ways of approaching that. Some people don't bend your arms, don't bend your legs under any circumstance. I prioritize feeling light, relaxed, and fluid. So I think especially when you're jumping into the position, bend your knees, keep them loose, and if they straighten, they straighten. But that's just sort of a product of you activating the muscles and the body taking that form, right? So anyways, with our pike handstand, think about downward facing dog. And all I'm going to do here is change the angle of my elbow and keep my body really hollow. So I'm pushing the butt forward, driving the tailbone down into the floor and pushing through the hands. So when I do this in downward facing dog, this is coming back to the practices that we did at the beginning about putting on the brakes. So this is sort of the culmination of you understanding the alignment, understanding the activations, and then stopping the body in the appropriate place. So, downward facing dog. Again, I'm going to shift halfway, lift my back and stabilize wrist, shoulders, push the butt down, reach the hips back, come over the hands, and up. Okay, so this position, you can work on sort of the strength and the hip fold. It's sort of re-engineering this upside down, or in reverse, I should say. So I went from hands or downward facing dog into the straight line. So I was at a 90-degree angle with my hips, and I went into the vertical position. So we're starting in the vertical position, and we're going to come up into the fold. So this is sort of the muscles that are working. So we're going to do this 5 times. This is a V-sit. Bring your arms forward, back down. So if you need to here again for your hamstrings, bend your knees. I'll show you that. Focus first on compression, back down. All right, so 5 of those, pike handstand V-sit. So if you're working again, if you're thinking about this directionally, pike handstand, I'm starting with my elbow behind me. I'm going to shift until the elbow is stacked over the hand and then resist with the wrist. And then finally, the shoulder follows the elbow. So the shoulder's fine where it is. What we're moving is the sacrum, right? So you can think about the sacrum as the next thing to sort of come over the balance point. So again, I'll show you again. Downward facing dog. Going to shift. So watch my elbow, watch my sacrum. So I'm going to shift halfway, stabilize, push the butt down. Come up. Extend the hips. Fold. Keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. Come back down. One more time with your V-sits if you're being a good handstand student. So again, when you're doing these types of exercises, it's not about doing them for reps. It's about doing them for form and awareness, right? Because that same motion that I did to get up into the handstand is the same motion that you're doing to lower into your V-sit. So you got to understand how to extend the hips and then fold the hip, right? So all of that is happening in different degrees when we're jumping in and out of our handstand. Okay, so that's pike handstand and straddle handstand.